Welcome to this flight of the Retail Pilot. I'm your host, Ken Pilot, former CEO and current brand advisor, retail tech investor, and board member. I'm thrilled to share with you the insights from some of retail's leaders and legends, as well as my perspective on retail today. This podcast is sponsored by the following. Bluecore's software solution turns anonymous online shoppers into known customers and repeat customers. Bluecore enables retailers to personalize and optimize their email, SMS, and site marketing campaigns by delivering targeted and relevant messages based on where every customer is in their journey. Bluecore replaces annoying high-volume messaging with high-value messaging. Customers include Alo Yoga, Neiman Marcus, and Gap. Joining me today on this episode of the Retail Pilot is Stephen Yalof, President and CEO of Tanger Outlet Centers, a leading operator of upscale open-air outlet centers with more than 37 locations across the U.S. and Canada. Steve joined Tanger in April 2020 as President and COO before succeeding Stephen Tanger as CEO in January of 2021. Steve has over 25 years of experience in the commercial real estate industry with a primary focus on the retail space. Before joining Tanger, Steve served as the CEO of Simon Property Outlets and previously served as Senior Vice President of Real Estate for Ralph Lauren and Senior Director of Real Estate for Gap Inc. Steve serves as a trustee of the International Council of Shopping Centers, otherwise known as ICSC, and is on the advisory boards of Headcount and the Center of Real Estate and Urban Analysis at George Washington University, his alma mater. Welcome back to the Retail Pilot. I am here today with a very special guest, and it's a bit of a walk down memory lane. I have Stephen Yalof, CEO of Tanger, joining the podcast. Stephen, great to see you and welcome.
For having me, Ken. I'm thrilled to be here.
It looks like by your background, you're in New York, so we've airlifted you out of Greensboro. Not that there's anything wrong with Greensboro, but you're back in the Big Apple for a big holiday weekend.
That's right. Big selling weekend, one of the biggest selling weekends of the year. So
I know.
Excited to be here. And, like we always say when we were together in the retail business, it's great to get your report card every day. So we'll be looking at traffic, we'll be looking at sales, we'll be listening to anecdotes. And, we're pretty optimistic about the holiday selling weekend.
We're going to get into all that with you, Stephen, because just optimistic about the holiday selling weekend isn't going to be enough for us today. So before we get to the biz, talk about how you got into the biz. And also, I think it would be really interesting just to share your career journey to Tanger.
Sure. Well, when I first met you over 30 years ago, Ken, hate to say it, I was working at New Plan Realty Trust. You remember my boss, Arnold. That's when Gap was first getting into the outlet business. And we owned shopping centers and I was leasing outlets. You and I got to know each other. We did a number of deals in some of our big cities like Branson, Missouri and Barstow, California. From New Plan Realty Trust, I wound up, for some reason, getting a call from the Gap asking if I'd be willing to join that company on their real estate team.
Best guy ever brought into the company.
And what a great journey. I mean, at the time that I was at the Gap, there were 35 people just handing real estate for North America. And if you take a look at where all those folks are today, I mean, it's the who's who. Jenny Chang, who's at Lululemon, Karen Janes, who's at Aritzia, Holly Cohn, who through a journey at J. Crew, now finds herself running Crew, which is the Women's Council Real Estate. So there's a lot of very accomplished people that had gone through that real estate group and have wound up in great leadership roles today.
Let's not forget Alan Barocas, and I give Alan credit, big credit here relative to us and Tanger, because it was Alan that brought forward a deal at Riverhead, which was the first outlet deal that I signed. This is back in 1994. I remember flying to Riverhead with Don Fisher to meet Steve and Stanley Tanger in, I don't know, a square mile of dirt. I was told this was going to be the best outlet. And I was like, okay, sounds good. Let's do it. So that was also another great name. And Alan, I think, went on to be executive chair of Brookfield.
Brookfield, yep.
Yeah. So Lots of great names, lots of great peeps at the Gap.
Gray Riverhead Story happens to be one of our most productive assets. So you had great foresight to look at that patch of dirt and think it would be something big, because all three Gap brands are still there today and they do extremely well in that shopping center. And hopefully, Athleta, who's now making a move to outlet, hopefully they'll be joining us in that center shortly.
Well, the way their business sounds, I think they'll be there sooner than later. Anyway, so from Gap, where did you go?
I went to Ralph Lauren. And again, my Ralph Lauren job started out really as an outlet job. When I interviewed for Ralph Lauren, they had asked if I had any international experience. And when I was at the Gap, I also had the opportunity to work on the Old Navy rollout in Canada. So that was my international experience. Ralph Lauren had just bought Club Monaco, and there was big rollout plans, but they were primarily in Canada at the time with a lot of stores. So my outlet experience, coupled with my street retail experience that I received while working at the Gap, coupled with the Canadian experience that I had working, for the Gap as we were rolling out the Old Navy, sort of gave me a leg up on the competition to land that Ralph Lauren job, which turned out to be one of the great jobs of my career. I was there for 14 years and continued to grow the portfolio from a domestic portfolio to an international portfolio. And as I recall, during the course of my journey, we brought an ex-Gapper over to run the outlet business and ultimately the rugby business, and that was you.
We connected again. Yeah, Stephen and I had a great overlap run. We did a number of outlet deals together and rugby deals together. Some worked out well, some not so well, but we always enjoyed our time together. Also, just very interesting side note. Before meeting Stephen Yalof, I actually worked indirectly for Steve's dad, Herb Yalof, who was the chief operating officer at Macy's while I was at Macy's prior to Gap. And another interesting story was that Steve's wife, Leora, was my assistant buyer or a trainee working for me at Macy's at the time. So we're connected in many different ways, professionally, personally, socially. I think Leora has finally now, after probably 35 years, forgiven me for the challenges I used to throw her way each day as she came to work. But anyway, great family, love you guys. And one question I have before we talk about Tanger running the business, many opportunities you've looked at over time. Any career decisions that you still scratch your head about today?
Making or not making?
Yes.
Well, when you're the head of real estate for Ralph Lauren, you definitely get to see a lot of opportunities. And a lot of the stores that we did were so visible that there were definitely a number of CEOs of retail companies that saw the body of work and said, hey, that would be an interesting person to talk to as we think about growing our business. There was one San Francisco based company that had called me. They were in the computer and tech business, as I recall at the time, thinking about
Fruit related company? Was it something with a fruit? I can't remember.
some, something like that. They were
It
thinking
wasn't
about
banana
growing.
because you left banana.
I did. They were thinking about growing that particular business. Unfortunately, geographically, that one didn't make sense for me. In retrospect, yeah, that probably would have been quite the journey. So I look back on that one as one that perhaps got away. But I will say that by staying where I was, and I was at Ralph Lauren at the time, that job did continue to get increasingly more exciting as it became more international.
Right. That's
Ralph Lauren was it was an
you got
international license
stuff.
company, and
Yeah.
we started to take the license back, and we got to see the world and do deals, in every continent on the planet. I thought that's a great, sort of thing to look back on as far as accomplishments. To think that we were able to make deals and open new stores and put people to work in the Ralph Lauren footprint around the world. So I'm pretty excited about.
You've been with Tanger now for 3 years. Before we go into the Tanger journey, just set up for everyone
Sure.
Tanger Outlet, what it is today, size of the business, number of stores, just to create some context.
Sure. Tanger Outlets is about, actually 38 shopping centers. We were 36 shopping centers about a month ago, but now we're 38. We recently added Nashville and just purchased Asheville in North Carolina last week. We are predominantly an open air shopping center company, playing predominantly in the outlet space currently. And, it's just been, it's having known that business, having started in that business, spending as much time as I have, it was a natural extension, obviously, for me and for what I've been doing during my career journey.
So on November 7th, you released Q3 results. I just have a couple of highlights to share with all, but you delivered 7.6 increase in same center net operating income, which for all out there, that is the most important financial KPI
Yeah.
for I think for mall developers in general. In addition, you have occupancy of 98% and growth in both year over year. Further, you've added 600 basis points of occupancy over the past 3 years, which coincides with the time that you took the helm. Other key stats include achieving strong rental rate growth with positive rent spreads of 13% on renewals and more than 30% on retenanted space over the past 12 months. Those are awesome results. Congratulations, Steve.
Thank you. We have an amazing team.
We'll get to the team. I know you have a very good team. I know it's not all you. As good as you are, you've got some great peeps behind you. Talk to us a little bit about what's working right now in the outlet space, because it's a very interesting time. The economy is in a bit of a funk, which way it's going. Obviously, inflation's wreaked havoc. What's happening in the world is wreaking havoc. But what's working specifically in the outlet centers that you have?
The one really compelling piece about the outlet centers is that they're predominantly open air shopping centers. And what's working for us, moreover, is aside from the fact that you get to offer great brands of value pricing every day. What we found, particularly post COVID, is that the shopper is looking for more of an experience than just a shopping trip. They're looking for more things to do when they shop, better food options, better amenities, maybe some experiential opportunity while they're out on site. And I think that period of time, as we've grown occupancy, as we've grown rent, has coincided with a bit of philosophical change in how we re-tenant space. So we've leaned a little bit more heavily into merchandising our outlet centers to include, in some instances, non-outlet use, but uses that our customers, particularly local shoppers, would seek on a far more regular basis. And we're also, and what that does is it brings them in more frequently. That frequency of visit feeds the desire for better food and beverage component in the shopping centers, because as you see customers more frequently and particularly more during the week, they're looking for things to do other than just shop, and most of that is a better dining experience, whether that's grab and go, counter serve, or sit down. And we've added all of those uses. And then from an experiential point of view, we realize that not everybody when the car arrives, not everybody is looking for that shopping experience. Some are looking for other things to do. So we found uses like Dave and Buster's and Main Event to be real good complements to the communities that we've developed. Aside from that, and Nashville is really a good proxy for just the redesign of the shopping center itself. We are able to take a lot of those post-COVID learnings that I'm discussing with you now and incorporate that into our latest footprint that was a ground up development.
So, what would be exciting? I mean, again, you talked about the amenities, the inclusion of certain shoppertainment locations like a Dave and Buster's. What technology might we see around then it's about 300,000 square feet, which is a big undertaking, but what technology might we see around Nashville that you're testing or ideas that you're testing that you may take to other centers?
It's interesting. We see, if you use as a proxy the airlines, because they do a wonderful job of providing an opportunity for you to use your phone as sort of the concierge, so to speak, as you prepare your trip, as you leave for the airport. If you want to change your seat, if you want to order food, if you want to order a car, if you want to watch the entertainment, people and their phones have become, one and the same. And so for us, what we've tried to do is create a little bit more of a mobile experience for our customers. Similar to the airport, we've given them the opportunity to plan their trip ahead of time. So we've got on the Tanger web, you can download the shopping center that you are planning on visiting. You can get a whole listing of all the stores. You can actually map out which ones you want to visit. You can see product, so you can do that window shop before you actually go and execute the shop. You can join our loyalty club, which is really important because what that does is that gives you an opportunity in exchange for some information about you. We will share with you better than offered to the walk-in public discounts and deals. And we've got several levels of loyalty that we can take you through, but loyalty was something that, just like the my airport analogy earlier, a lot of airlines have that loyalty. There's plenty of places to shop, there's plenty of airlines to fly, and people talk about their best commodity is time, right? But I would suggest that there's plenty of people that would fly from New York to California and stop over in Kansas City if they knew they were getting more loyalty points. So I would say that those loyalty points in some instances are more important to people than time. So if you've got a really good loyalty program that gives you great rewards, provides you with additional value, and makes it really easy to use, you're on to something. So what did we do? We hired the team from Delta Airlines to come and join our company to help develop that
Okay,
strategy.
well now I'm upset. I'm upset because the new team that came into Delta Airlines put in this crazy new program for next year, which has nothing to do with miles flown. It's simply focused on dollars charged. Now, I've still got to fly another 1,452 miles this year, or no, I have to buy $1,452 worth of tickets this year to retain my diamond medallion status. And I'm not happy about it. I'm not happy about any of it. But thankfully, you have a great promotional loyalty program. So off to you. Good for you. Bad for me until I shop with you.
Or make that trip. Come visit me in Greensboro.
I
Delta flies direct from LaGuardia. You get your 1,400 miles.
boom, boom. I'll do that. So,
And we can go catch the Greensboro grasshoppers. Come on. It'll be a great day.
what differentiates Tanger from Simon Premium Outlets? How would you say? Because I don't even know who number three is anymore, if there
Mhm.
is. Between the two companies, you guys really own the space. But what's the differentiator?
If you look at how outlet centers compete with one another, you know, to the extent that there's two in the same geography, yeah, they compete. And, there's one shopping center will have certain brands and the other will have different brands. And it's really up to the customer to make a decision with regard to what brand do they want to shop in that particular day. But for us, it's really not about the centers competing head to head because there's very few places where there's two centers in one geography. What our real competition is the discount, big box discount. So TJ Maxx, Marshalls, Macy's to some extent, Belk's, just department stores that are discounting. What are they doing? They're offering branded value, much like an outlet center is offering branded value. So for us, the differentiator for us and some of those big box department stores is that, each one of the brands, each one of the brand experiences are showcased in their own four wall environment. So they're merchandised like a lifestyle. So if you're a brand fan of Michael Kors or a brand fan of Adidas or a brand fan of Ralph Lauren, you could shop the entire assortment with full size runs from footwear to overcoats to accessories to bedding, and know that you're going to have that entire assortment under one roof. You'll also have a sales team that understands the product, the positioning, and the pricing. And if there's anything in that environment that you don't see or something that isn't your size, you can interact on the floor with a selling representative who isn't trying to sell you a different brand, but wants to make sure that the brand that you intended to get when you walk into that store, you'll either leave home with or it will be sent to you. And I think that's sort of what we offer the shopper in additional experience when they come through an outlet center. From a retailer's perspective, and we've all shopped our share of discount department stores and we understand the classification merchandising. So if you're a size 10 shoe, You go to the size 10 shoe section, and there's Cole Haan next to Kenneth Cole, next to Tommy Hilfiger, next to brand after brand after brand. So it's really you're shopping for size and you're shopping for commodity. You're not necessarily shopping by brand. I think that the outlet channel gives the retailer an opportunity to get in front of their customer who they may not see in any other channel, but convert them into a long term customer. So I think a lot of the retailers that choose outlet are doing so because they have an opportunity to acquire a new customer and ultimately take them up through their ecosystem.
Stephen, let's talk a little bit about product that goes to outlet. For many people may think that what ends up in outlet are simply retailers' mistakes, overruns, etc., when in fact, most of the product that's in the outlet stores is made specifically for the outlet. Sometimes it's augmented with mistakes, but the majority of product and those who run their outlet business well make product for the outlet stores. Do you find the quality of what's being made for the outlet stores by these retailers to be on par with the quality that they're delivering to their quote unquote regular price customer?
That's a huge question because it has to deal with the philosophical reason why retailers get into the outlet business to begin with. And there are definitely big brands that, if they're in every outlet center across the country, and we've seen them, based on their not wanting to disappoint a customer, will expand size runs. What's interesting is, particularly post COVID, as when logistics started to open up, supply chain distribution started to get better, there was a lot of excess inventory that was stuck on the docks overseas somewhere that wasn't being moved into the stores. We saw all-time high pricing because there was far less inventory in stores. We knew something was going to have to give. What happened was a lot of those brands, rather than bring last year's styles into their full line stores, chose to clear a lot of that excess through the excess channels, the department stores that we talked about earlier, or the outlet channel itself. And there's a lot of great examples of brands that have become synonymous with made for outlet, actually taking a lot of that excess clearance and pushing it through our channel. 21 was a great year for excess clearance coming through our shopping center. It was like the perfect storm for retail 2021
Yes.
because you had that logistic logjam started to break. There was a lot of excess inventory in the channel that made its way through our stores. There was a captured audience because you had customers that weren't traveling overseas, that were staying domestically. And if you look at the footprint of where our shopping centers are, we are in these domestic tourist locations: Myrtle Beach, Hilton Head, Sevierville, Tennessee, Asheville, Nashville. We're in places that people want to go, they want to visit. As you know, tourists make great shoppers, and they definitely, the retailers as well as the customers, reap the benefits from great product assortment, real merchandise, and great pricing in the outlets during that 2021 timeframe.
Let's take a quick break with a word from our sponsors. Predict Spring is a global point-of-sale platform live in 22 countries. The platform includes mobile POS, endless aisle, fulfillment, inventory management, and clienteling, creating a true omni experience for customers and associates. Predict Spring powers Suit Supply, Converse, Lovesac, Decium, Janie and Jack, and Bouclair. Breakfast helps brands like HelloFresh, Perfume.com, and QVC increase revenue across Meta and TikTok by creating hundreds of user-generated content video ads. The Breakfast Creator Network, with over 5,000 strong, produces original content that is authentic to each platform and built to drive performance, all done in as little as 3 weeks. Check out breakfast.io. That's BRKFST.io. 2021 was a great year in terms of the product, the value that was going into the outlet based on coming off of the supply chain issues all around COVID. Fast forward, we're going to holiday of 2023. We're a few days away from Black Friday and Cyber Monday. Maybe a little different challenge because now, as I see it, you have many retailers who have brought their inventories under control. And yet, even doing so, pricing and promotions are as strong as I can recall over the recent years. So I would think, and tell me if you feel differently, one of the biggest competitors to the outlet space, whether it's Simon Malls or Tanger Malls, will be the value that's going to be provided at retailers near you. I don't have to travel as far to get a deal because Black Friday started like the day after Halloween. Are you seeing that with traffic? Are you seeing the deals? And are the retailers being aggressive enough from your perspective in the outlets to drive traffic there away from the discounts and deals that are happening at a store near them?
Well, look, a couple things I want to attack in that question. The first is, are the shoppers seeing the deals where the retailers are promotionally pricing their product in our channel? They're winning the customer and they're getting the benefit. You know, the piece about the drive time is an old narrative because a lot of the shopping centers that are the most successful shopping centers today sit in the center of the communities that they serve. They still grab that tourist, but the narrative of the shopping center being halfway between this city and that city and you'll catch it on your journey, that's old news. Just look no further than Nashville, Tennessee, 12 miles outside of downtown in a very, very vibrant and growing community. That shopping center stands on its own 2 feet as a locally shopped shopping center, but also has the access and the ability to draw that customer that's coming into Nashville. And they're coming in 12 million people a year. So we've got a great tourism base that we are developing, as well as that local shopper base that is growing in population size at the rate of 100 people a day moving into that Nashville metroplex market.
Add to that, I think, if you believe the reports, but they say this year for the Thanksgiving weekend will be one of the busiest, most traveled Thanksgiving weekends in over a decade. So I assume that'll bode well for you. People will be out there after Thanksgiving shopping, more people on the road. That's also good. So I'm looking for big numbers coming out of this quarter, Mr. Yalof.
As am
I know,
I.
I know you can't comment. I can comment. I'm just looking for big numbers. Nice smile there. Let's talk a little bit about your team because I think, in addition to doing a great job repositioning Tanger Inc., you've built a team, you've attracted talent. Talk to us a little bit about how you did it and who's on board.
Yeah, look, Tanger's a 42-year-old company, 30 years publicly traded, and has had an extremely successful run. I joined the company in April of 20, right in the height of COVID. COVID has changed everything. It eliminated millions of square feet of retailers that were hanging on by a thread. It changed the way the customer shops. It made a customer a lot more savvy about doing their window shopping online and then choosing the location where they chose to shop. It heightened the awareness of the open air shopping center. So many dynamics changed, things we've never even heard about before, like shop online, pick up in store, or curbside pickup. Things that we might have taken for granted for years are now part of our everyday vocabulary. So the shopping center of the future, and Nashville, we put underneath that headline, needed to be reinvented. Also, the way we look at the shopper experience needed to be reinvented because the customer itself is looking for a far different experience today than they did even before COVID. The outlet experience was a power shopping experience. You filled your car with your friends and you went from store to store to store to store. Now, as the open air dominant location in the communities that they serve, a lot of folks are looking for things to do in addition to just shopping in an outlet shopping environment. And for us, like I said to you earlier, we're adding different amenities and different experiences, better food and beverage, like I said. And why is that important? So we went after changing the way our leasing team looks. We brought in a leasing leader who's got great national leasing experience, not just outlet shopping experience. And as you know, if you're the Gap leasing guy handling the Gap New York territory as I was, you're going to handle the outlets in that region. You're going to handle the full price in that region. You're going to handle them all. So the folks that we're communicating are pretty much the same people from a brand point of view. But couple that with the need for big box now. Ulta Beauty making a big move to come into outlet centers now. So we've got big box leasing people on our team that are doing deals with some of those bigger boxes. I mentioned Dave and Buster's, same thing. So, we've made some changes in our leasing team to bring folks in that have restaurant pad renting discipline, just to bring their customer databases in from previous experience to help augment our team so that we're not reinventing. We're going in and we're hitting the ground running. Operationally, I inherited a company here that was a little bit more centralized, run out of Greensboro, North Carolina. And, when I hired Leslie Swanson as my chief operating officer, I did so because I knew there was nobody better than her on the planet to refocus the organization from top down to bottom up. We like to say we are a field led organization. The best thinking, the best strategy, the best marketing ideas start in the shopping center mall office because we currently have 38 properties. Of the 38 properties that we have today, they're all in pretty unique geographies. They all shop different, need different marketing, need different management, and need different thinking. So Leslie's put together a team of folks that we are field led. We say that our general managers are the CEOs of our organization. We brought in some great talent from around the industry that liked what we were doing over here at Tanger and loved the fact that we were going to give them autonomy in the field to run their business. And, you quoted some of our results at the top of this call today. I think a lot of those results I would credit to that team that we've built, particularly the field team that we built.
Look, it starts with leadership, and clearly you've created as a strong leader, someone who's passionate about the business with a strong vision. You've been able to attract the talent that's clearly impacting Tanger Inc. in a positive way. Not to mention, I think Steve Tanger just stepped down after 30 years at the helm, an amazing run that he had. He's no longer executive chair. I believe that, is it Bridget Ryan Berman who stepped into that job?
Yes.
Someone who we both know well. Huge respect for what she's been able to accomplish in her career. Big BRB fan, as I know you are. The training wheels now are officially off, Mr. Yalof. It's all about you and that team that you just described, but it seems like you're positioned well. That being said, what would you say are the three biggest challenges that you face today? What do you lose sleep over?
Retention of talent. There's a lot of competition out there and people are seeing what we're doing. We're not particularly shy to share, what we're doing. We've told a great story in our industry. We've seen great results for many quarters in a row. They resonate. I think people are paying attention to what we're doing. We no longer fly under the radar. Because of that, people want to understand our playbook a little bit better. So I think that that's something that I think about frequently. I obviously think about shopper security and some of the organized crime that's been occurring across the country, and how we could be smarter, how we can do a better job working with local police departments, how we have done a much better job building a great security department over here that's interfacing with government agencies and organizations. So we have a heads up on things. So we're far more proactive than reactive, but that's definitely something that we think about all the time. And then I would say the third thing is going to be the global economy. As Mr. Tanger likes to say, good economies and bad economies, people love value that you can get in our shopping center. Obviously says it a little bit more eloquently than I do, but that's the messaging. And, he's right. However, in a high interest rate environment, in a high inflation environment where pricing can sometimes get a little bit out of control, we're fortunate that we're in, most of our environments are places where people can certainly get their favorite brands at value pricing, but we still, just worry about the spend and the disposable income of our core customer base. And so those are the things that we're constantly thinking about. Now, we work with our retailer partners to fend off and say, hey, here's a big shopping weekend. This is a great opportunity for us to be a little bit more promotional. Or maybe we lean a little bit more heavily into our loyalty to incent customers to come and make another trip by giving them additional value in order to execute to that. So, I'm constantly thinking of new strategies to bring folks into the shopping center, stay longer when they get there, and ultimately spend more money. I mean, that's sort of my job.
In addition to organic growth, which would include another shopping center, it would include continuing to improve your NOI, upgrading leases, upgrading tenancy. What other opportunities out there, if you can talk about them, are there for growth, such as is international on the table? Will there be a Tanger Inc. shopping site where we can shop online at some point in time? How are you thinking about growth over and above the organic ways that I just mentioned?
We just, and I said to you earlier, but in the last quarter alone, we've added two new shopping centers to the portfolio. Nashville was ground up development, and, early reads are the shoppers responding, the retailers are extremely pleased, and we love the footprint. It's a 300,000 square foot footprint, 60 plus tenants. We're pretty much fully leased there. We've got a large footprint of food and beverage, which we think are critically important. We designed this shopping center around this central park we call the Green, which we activate and create community activities on a regular basis. So it's a much different look and feel, and it shops much differently than a lot of other shopping centers in our portfolio. And I think it's the way the industry's going, especially the way we're going. But it's like when you shop a lot of our shopping centers, there's a Tanger Center there, but adjacent to it is a Power Center, or adjacent to it is a grocery anchor strip. Those adjacencies are shopping centers that we're looking at as well, because most of the customer doesn't know that we just own the outlet. They think we own the whole thing. And why not? We've got the discipline. Like I said, we're building the food and beverage discipline from a leasing point of view. We're building the big box leasing. We're building the operations team ground up so we know that we can manage. So I think where there's opportunity, particularly in centers that are adjacent to properties that we currently own, we think there's great opportunity for us to do a much better job, use the marketing that we currently have, because we're a marketing machine, drive tenants into our centers to drive tenants into the adjacent properties as well. And I think that that's a great opportunity for us. There's also peripheral land, and that's that adjacent property that we own. When you build a shopping center that's 300,000 square feet, usually the center of the parking takes about 30 acres. Well, historically, Mr. Tanger had the insight to buy 50 acres. And what do you do on that adjacent 20? Well, now that these have become, like I said, the center of the communities that they serve, that adjacent land has tremendous value.
You can
So
do
we're spending a lot of time.
pickleball, padel. I mean, there you
Pickleball. There's actually a chicken pickle just opened up, or is in the process of, they're under construction on an adjacent property in Westgate in Arizona. But yet, there's amazing things that we can do with those adjacencies, and that's what we're executing to right now.
chicken and pickle is hot. I mean, I know people think we're kidding, but there really is a concept out there, chicken and pickle, and they're killing
Love
it,
it.
killing it. You mentioned something I think that's super interesting, and I guess I probably experienced this first, maybe in Westfield Century City, and now I see it much more as a trend. You talk about the percent of amenity to retail in a center. And I think, in as much as we are over square footed per person in this country with retail space, it looks like the malls of the future, and it sounds like you're following suit, are really focused on better balancing, pushing more in the way of amenity to retail store towards the customer. So it feels a bit more balanced. Is that a fair statement in terms of how you're viewing your footprint going forward?
Definitely. I'll give you a great analogy. Okay. If you liken the shopping center to a football stadium, right? There's a lot of similarities. First of all, you can shop on your couch and you can watch a football game on the couch. And obviously, the parking's better at home, and the bathrooms might be, cleaner, and the food might be better. But what these sports stadiums have figured out how to do is completely amenitize the experience. So the balance is such that, oh, by the way, there's also a game going on. There's great food and beverage. There's better bars. There's celebrity chef restaurants. There's Shake Shacks. There are things for kids to do. There's the store is they have 25,000 square foot team stores instead of these, horrible little kiosks that we used to have to shop when we visited a game. There's a VIP experience. There's better parking. There's better clubs. There's bathroom. It's amazing what sports stadiums have done to get people off the couch and into the live venue. And, we take a lot of our leads from that. We have a similar challenge. We need to get people off the couch and into the actual physical shop. People are social. They want to get out. They want to do things. We want to make sure that we provide not only great stores, but also great experiences when they come and visit us. Much like a football stadium on a Sunday, they're packed. Every game is packed. We want to make sure that we keep our shopping centers similarly packed. And in order to do so, we have to, sort of change that amenity balance a little bit that leans in favor of what do people want to do in addition to shop.
Stephen, with little over 3 years into this job and the Tanger stock growing I think, close to 6x from the time you were put in the job, is there, congratulations, amazing, wow, is there a mistake that you've made, or maybe phrase it differently, a learning that's come over the first 36 months that was an aha moment? Maybe you learned it the hard way, a lesson learned, or something that happened that has maybe given you a slightly different trajectory or perspective than when you started the job?
Look, I guess we probably wanted to do everything really fast. You mentioned Bridget Ryan Berman. She's on our board of directors. She's been a big sister. We worked together. She hired us both to work at Polo. When you've got a board that's that deep, has that kind of strength. Dave Henry, who worked for Kimco, Sandeep Mathrani, who you spoke about, Alan Brokers. Sandeep hired him at Brookfield. Jeff Citron, who's been in the real estate business forever. Susan Scarrett, comes from the banking background. Tom Redden, who comes from a digital background and lendingtree.com. We've got an unbelievable board of directors that have done a really good job of being a sounding board. They're letting us grow our company. They're having us do what we know how to do. This is our training. This is what we've done our entire career, letting us run with our business. But in each of those different, whether it's banking or leasing or retail or digital, we've got great sounding boards in the business that have experienced it and give us the opportunity to get in front of them and take them through what we're thinking about. So have we made mistakes? I think the one thing we might have tried to do was go after too much. When you have a really strong board of directors that's very disciplined, they help you discipline and pick the things that are important. And if you go back in that 3-year history or whatever, we built our operational team. Then we built our leasing team. Then we built our marketing team. We brought in Michael Billerman, who was the lead analyst at Citibank, who covered the REIT stocks, to be our CFO. Wasn't a CFO, but knows investor relations better than anybody on the planet. And a lot of that notoriety and a lot of the investor awareness was created by his very presence in this company. We've now just added from another residential REIT, our general counsel, Jessica Norman, who just joined us. So we've got great complement of experience, not only on the leadership team, but also in our board of directors. And, we work very closely together to make sure that the things that we're doing and the way that we approach things are disciplined, are, capital effective. It's like when you remodel a house, you want to make sure you continue to put smart money. Am I going to get a return? Am I going to get that back? We're still in the part of our business growth evolution where the things that we're doing are things that we know we're going to get a return on.
Sounds like you speak to the board more than just at the board meetings. You have a great board and you can use, or I assume, access their talent, their thoughts, their direction and advice at any time. Do you work closely with the board outside between your board meetings? Is that how you operate as a CEO?
Well, I think it's important for the CEO to have great relationships with the people on the board. You know, they're a great extension of what we do. Obviously, they're the fiduciary that represents our investors, and they do a wonderful job. But, when you build a board, you want to make sure that they're multifaceted, they got great discipline, that they come to the table with experience in a number of different things so that they complement each other and not overlap with each other. So, that's a great strength that we have as an organization. And I think a lot of the results that you spoke about earlier not only come ground up, but we also see a lot of those results because we've got access to very, very smart people and
Go in.
experienced and accomplished people.
Yeah, I mean, clearly I'm going to withdraw my board application. There's obviously no room for me. Before we get into the last part of this of our conversation, rapid fire, can you share with us just who's doing well, which retailers, which brands you see today are really successful? Because I'm going to guess that they're also probably doing really well in full price also.
Well, first of all, let's start with this category that you and I never even heard of 10 years ago called athleisure, which is really fashion athletic wear. And I just think that that's really setting the tone. They're doing a great job. They have been for years, whether it's brands that have been around for a while, like Nike and Adidas. They continue to do extremely well in their apparel categories. But, the newer brands, Lululemon's probably not as new anymore, but brands like Lululemon, Athleta, Viore seem to be doing extremely well. What's so interesting is, you know, 15 years ago, it was like jeans, jeans, jeans. And then all of a sudden, leggings came on the scene. And now what you're seeing is, a combination of how this athleisure category has really infiltrated the fashion business. Ralph Lauren is making purple label RLX suits that have, stretch in them. Rhone is making men's tuxedo shirts with wicking capability. So a lot of that.
Important that is when you're at a bar mitzvah or a wedding. I mean, you need wicking formal wear.
You ever get the guy up in the chair over your head?
That's right.
It's there's a lot of that technical fabrication is making its way into fashion. And I think that it's a really exciting time for the business, and that's a fun transition to watch.
To add to that, you look at some of the numbers that came out. Deckers reported a 25% increase in their sales over the last quarter, and mainly driven by Hoka, the strength of Hoka. You look at On Holdings with On, I mean, 45% growth year over year. So, not necessarily athleisure, but athletic footwear. You mentioned
Yep.
Nike and Adidas, but that sector seems to be pretty strong. How about in the fashion space? Anybody out there that's doing particularly well? Ralph had a pretty good quarter. Ralph is a big player, as we both know, but they've also increased their prices. Uh, I heard that their prices since 2019 are up. This is regular price, about 80%. Huge jump, but it seems like it isn't slowing them down.
Well, they're seeing it in margin. And look, it's interesting when you're on my side of the transaction, overage rent comes from the gross sale number. But as you know, when you're on the other side of the retailer transaction, profitability comes from, you know, the other side of the business. I think they're doing a great job of raising margin and becoming more profitable. Maybe they sell fewer products, but their profitability is definitely there.
All right. You ready for rapid fire?
Absolutely.
Okay. Here we go. Which brand would you most like to have in a Tanger Center that is not there today?
I just told you we have 38 shopping centers that are all individually curated. So I have to go geographically to give you that answer. But look, if I were going to pick a brand, I would say Louis Vuitton.
If you could join any band, which band would you join?
It's a great question. You know how much I love the Dead, but they don't need me. I would say, I'd say the Black Crows.
For those of you that don't know, Steven Yalof is a rocker. I've been to concerts. They're epic, and they're also legendary. They happened around ICSC in New York. I can't tell you where because too many of your fans would flood the location. Favorite streamed show?
The Bear. Food, music, and cool cast. And great customer service.
I like The Bear. Bear's a good one. If we were shopping together in a Tanger Center and we got separated, where would I find you?
In the menswear department of Ralph Lauren store.
What is your favorite activity living in Greensboro, North Carolina?
Greensboro Grasshoppers minor league baseball. You got to come and see a game.
Finally, who would you most like to meet?
John Lennon.
And with that, we will land today's flight of the retail pilot. Stephen Yalof, thank you so much for joining me. It was a pleasure to share.
It was a lot of fun.
Share where we were, where you are today. It sounds all good. Happy holidays to you and your family. So good to see you. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, Ken.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's flight of the Retail Pilot. And please give us a review on your favorite podcast platform.